The clock will resume at T-minus 4 minutes. Now 30 minutes left until today's launch. ULA's Atlas V rocket is now fully fueled out on pad 41. That cryogenic loading operation concluded a short time ago, and the rocket weighs nearly 1.1 million pounds, fully loaded with kerosene, liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen, and solid propellants. The two payloads on board have a combined mass of about 3.3 metric tons, so just a very small fraction of this entire stack is a payload mass. These two satellites are nearly identical, built by Boeing, and are heading to geosynchronous orbit tonight. In the final pre-launch weather briefing to the launch team, the launch weather officer from the U.S. Space Force's 45th Weather Squadron has given her outlook for launch time this evening, and the weather across the board appears to be favorable. All the weather rules are currently observed go for launch, and our forecast to remain go for the remainder of the countdown. No significant weather concerns to speak of this afternoon. These are not an issue for this, and there is some clouds hanging over the spaceport right now. Has increased hours with scattered clouds over that, but those are not expected to be an issue for the launch either. We just heard from ULA's launch control team that the fuel fill sequence in the Russian-made RD-180 engine is complete. This is one of the preparatory steps to condition that engine for ignition. The countdown clock remains built-in hold at T-minus 4 minutes, 26 minutes from opening of tonight's launch window for the SES-20 and SES. This Atlas V rocket is heading toward geosynchronous orbit at an altitude of about 21,700 miles, where the Centaur upper stage will deploy the SES-20 and SES-21 commercial TV broadcasting satellites very close to their final orbital positions, and this will expedite the entry into service for those satellites instead of requiring months for orbit raising and maneuvers to reach their operating altitude. SES expects these satellites to be able to enter service in just a few weeks after launch. Now 25 from the opening of the launch window.
LC, this is flight control. Go flight.
And an update from the Launch Control Center. The trajectory file for tonight's mission is now being uploaded into the Atlas V's flight computer, the acronym INCA, I-N-C-A. That trajectory file takes into account the real-time observations of upper-level winds throughout the atmosphere at different altitudes. And based on those winds at different altitudes, thanks to weather balloons, the launch team can select a trajectory file that is a best fit for those wind profiles, and that trajectory file is now being uploaded into the Atlas V's guidance computer. The opening of the window now 24 minutes away. We're going to show now a video package from United Launch Alliance giving an overview of what to expect on tonight's mission. Again, this mission is carrying 2 commercial communication satellites into orbit for SES. This is a replay of a previous Atlas V launch in this same Atlas V configuration with 3 strap boosters. The rocket will fire off the nearly 2 million pounds of thrust, and that thrust will be vectored from the main engine to head to guide the rocket due east from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It'll pass the speed of sound in about 40 seconds. A few seconds later, at 57 seconds, it'll pass maximum aerodynamic pressure. And then about 1:57 seconds, the Atlas V will jettison the 2 or the 3 strap rocket boosters. Those will fall down into the Atlantic Ocean. At nearly 3.5 minutes, the payload shroud on top of the Atlas V will be jettisoned once the rocket reaches space. And then at T plus 4 minutes, 19 seconds, Atlas V's RD-180 engine will shut down. That will be followed a few moments later by staging. The first stage will separate from the stage, which will begin its pre-start sequence. And then it will light its Aerojet Rocketdyne RL-10 engine, producing more than 20,000 pounds of thrust. This RL-10 engine is built by Aerojet Rocketdyne, burns a mixture of cryogenic liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen propellants. The first burn of this RL-10 will conclude nearly 12 minutes into the mission to place the payloads into a preliminary low Earth orbit. About 10 minutes later, at T plus 23 minutes, there will be a restart of that upper stage engine, followed by shutdown. And then there will be a long coast period of more than 5 hours to get the rocket and the 2 satellites up to geosynchronous altitude at 22,000 miles. And at that point, the Centaur will relight the RL-10 engine for a 2-minute burn. This will circularize the orbit from an oval-shaped transfer orbit into a more circular geosynchronous orbit. You can see this animation from ULA shows the 2 will separate first about 5 hours, 38 minutes into the flight. And at 6 hours, 18 minutes, we'll see separation of SES-21. These satellites are virtually identical. SES-20 is slightly heavier, beefed up structure to support the weight of the satellite on top of it. But otherwise, these satellites are identical, built by Boeing, and have identical missions. One of the satellites is heading to a position in geosynchronous orbit at 103 degrees west longitude. The other is heading to 131 degrees west longitude. And this will enable coverage across the entire continental United States, Hawaii, Alaska, and neighboring parts of North America, providing television programming and radio broadcast services, again, across North America. In the C-band, these 2 satellites are heading to orbit to replace some aging C-band satellites that are no longer in service, that are now obsolete because the Federal Communications Commission has repurposed some of this band spectrum for use in terrestrial 5G service from satellites to terrestrial service, and companies like SES are having to launch new satellites tuned to a different part of the C-band spectrum to continue providing television broadcast services from space. These companies like SES and Intelsat are actually being reimbursed for these new satellites and their launches by the 5G companies who have bid to take some of that C-band spectrum once used for satellite services. So that's the mission profile for tonight. From liftoff until the final payload separation is 6 hours and 18 minutes. We won't be live throughout that entire flight. We'll have updates after the completion of the second burn and the coast phase and payload separation on our homepage on spaceflightnow.com and on social media. The Centaur upper stage on tonight's mission is actually outfitted with a mission extension kit, has additional helium pressurant, has some radiation shielding, and has additional battery capacity to enable it to survive for more than 6 hours from launch until payload deployment. Here's some additional views of these two satellites heading to orbit tonight, SCS-20 and SCS-21. On the left is an image from the payload processing facility near Cape Canaveral. These two satellites were connected together and then mounted on the launch vehicle adapter before encapsulation inside the Atlas V's payload fairing. You can see these satellites together stand several stories tall and actually weigh about 3.3 metric tons combined. Upper right is a view of these two satellites separately before they were synced together. After shipment from Boeing's satellite factory out in Southern California, these two satellites rode to Florida by truck, where they were delivered in August for final launch processing. And on the bottom right is an artist concept from Boeing of what these satellites will look like in orbit. You can see each of them has a single C-band deployable reflector antenna. They will also be extending two solar array wings to generate electricity after they separate from the Centaur upper stage Atlas V rocket. The Atlas V, after liftoff tonight, will be heading due east. Again, it's targeting an equatorial geosynchronous orbit, and that requires a launch due east from Cape Canaveral Spaceflight Station. We've labeled Space Launch Complex 41 here on this map. The red line shows the approximate ground track out over the Atlantic Ocean. It'll be heading east, and it will cross the over the central Atlantic Ocean and then head out over Africa. And then it will begin climbing up to geosynchronous altitude after that second burn of the Centaur upper stage, as we described in that mission profile video from ULA a few minutes ago. Here's an overview of the Atlas V rocket in this configuration. It's called the 531. The 5 denotes that the rocket is flying with a 5.4 meter diameter payload fairing produced by a company called Beyond Gravity. If you're familiar with the space industry, you may know them better as Ruag Space. It's a Swiss company, but they have a facility in the U.S. where they build these payload fairings for United Launch Alliance. The 3 in 531 signifies that there are 3 strap-on solid-fueled rocket motors clustered around the first stage of the Atlas V. These motors are produced by Northrop Grumman. They're called GEM 63s. Here, the GEM 63s are known as graphite epoxy motors, and the 63 is the diameter, 63 inches in diameter for each of these motors. The 1 means there is a single RL-10 engine on the Centaur upper stage. That RL-10 C11 engine comes from Aerojet Rocketdyne, and it's the RL-10 engine family that's also used on the Delta IV rocket. It's also going to be used on ULA's next generation Vulcan Centaur rocket, which is replacing the Atlas and Delta rocket families. And of course, a variant of the RL-10 engine, if you're familiar with NASA's Artemis moon program, is the upper stage engine on the Space Launch System moon rocket. At the bottom of the rocket, bottom of the Atlas V, is the Russian-made R-180 engine. produced by a company called MPO Energomash, located near Moscow. And this engine burns kerosene and liquid oxygen. It'll burn for about 4 minutes to get the rocket out of the atmosphere and begin tonight's marathon 6-hour mission. The rest of the flight after the first stage boost is completed will be performed by the Centaur upper stage. Now 10.5 minutes remaining until the opening of tonight's launch window. If you're just joining us, thanks for doing so. You're looking at a live view of Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where United Launch Alliance has an Atlas V rocket fully loaded, fully fueled for launch at 5:36 p.m. Eastern Time, 21:36 UTC. If you haven't had a chance to do so, please hit the like button on our YouTube stream. This helps us ensure we're bringing this live launch coverage to as many people as possible. You can also please support our coverage. Please support our coverage by becoming a member of our YouTube channel. We have different membership tiers available for you to choose from, and depending on which level you select, you can gain access to bonus video features for members only. Now less than 10 minutes remaining until the opening of the launch window. We're standing by from the pre-launch readiness poll from launch conductor Ron McKee at the Atlas Flight Operations Center. We're going to play the audio now from launch conductor Ron McKee in the next few minutes to talk about, well, he'll be doing his final pre-launch readiness poll of different elements, different consoles of the launch control team at the Atlas Spaceflight Operations Center. We expect that poll momentarily.
Engineers and managers.
L-7 minutes.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Atlas systems, propulsion. Go. Hydraulics. Go. Pneumatics. Go. LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Gas.
Go.
Electrical systems, airborne.
Go.
Ground. Go. Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
GCQ.
Go.
Operation support.
Go.
COM. Umbilicals.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Red light monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager. Fuel safety officer. Vehicle system engineer.
Go.
Anomaly chief.
Go.
Range coordinator.
Clear to proceed.
Launch director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC verified T0 set for 21:360.
Verified.
That was the voice of launch conductor Ron McKee polling his Atlas V launch team at the Atlas Spaceflight Operations Center here at Cape Canaveral. And as you heard, all stations reported go for launch at 5:36 Eastern Time, 21:36 UTC. That countdown clock is expected to resume at T-minus 4 minutes in about a minute and a half.